Hey friends, welcome back to She's At It Again. We are going to be making a pumpkin soup, and I wanted to take you along for it. Now, the weather had been cool for the last few days, but in the afternoons it's getting up to like the mid to high 70s, so it's really not that cool, but we're going to pretend it's cool this afternoon. We're going to be making some pumpkin soup. I'm going to be making something to go with it that we'll do in a different video because it's just too much to put into one. So we're going to start out with a saucepan that will hold at least 8 cups. Now, generally when you make pumpkin soup, you start with a fresh pumpkin, and this is definitely the shortcut for this. We're not starting with a fresh pumpkin. We're going to use canned pumpkin. So we're going to start with about a cup of onion slices, and you just saw me cutting that up. I'm going to put that in the pan. This is just a yellow onion. I'm going to turn my burner on, and we're going to add 6 cups of homemade chicken broth, chicken bone broth. This is bone broth I made a couple months ago. If you've never had pumpkin soup, don't be deceived by the fact it says pumpkin, because it really doesn't taste a lot like pumpkin. It has the color of pumpkin, but it tastes more like a really, really good chicken broth. And you can taste the onions. There's some thyme in this and a little bit of cream, so it's real smooth. It's more like a sipping soup, and that's how I serve it, is in big mugs. I know that's about 4 cups because I poured a quart jar in there, but I'm going to measure out about 2 cups from this one. This isn't truly a quart jar, so wasn't sure how full it was. This soup comes together really, really quick. Now, I've always made this with a fresh pumpkin, but you know what? You just do your homework and go, I've got canned pumpkin in the pantry. I think I can do this quicker. Zoe, stop. We're also going to add about a half teaspoon of minced garlic to this. Oh, I shouldn't have stuck that in the garlic first. Now I got to make sure I rinse and dry this. As a cook, you know, put your spoon in the dry things first and then in the wet things last. That way it sticks to it. But did I do that? No. All right, about 1.5 teaspoons of salt. I keep referring back to my recipe behind me. So there's about 1 teaspoon. And another half. A teaspoon of dry thyme. We're going to take our canned pumpkin and measure out about, let's see, 2.5 cups. So this is what our canned pumpkin looks like. Whoa, we got the sirens going. I don't know if y'all can hear that or not. So now that I've emptied my onions out of my measuring cup, I can use that. If you don't have pumpkin, but you have butternut squash, or you want to use a fresh butternut squash, you're welcome to do that too, because basically they're kind of interchangeable in recipes, believe it or not. first time I ever had this soup, there were, I think, 2 or 3 of us getting together to make lunches for the teachers at a school. And so it was my friend's turn to make up the menu for this, and she said pumpkin soup, and I'm thinking, oh, that's going to be so bad. It just sounds so bad. But it was so good. The teachers loved it, and of course, I loved it enough to where I said, I've got to have that recipe. And she said, oh, it's super easy. And I'm thinking, well, easy to you might not be easy to me. But it was easy enough with the pumpkin, but to use canned pumpkin in it, yeah. This is one of those things you can just basically make it up at the last minute and pour it in mugs and let people sit around and sip it. Get a fire going if it's really cold outside. It is just the perfect soup. And if somebody says, I don't like pumpkin, just dismiss that because this does not have the flavor of pumpkin. All right, so let's see. One of those cans is about 1.5 cups, so we'll need part of another can. Now, if you use fresh pumpkin, of course, you'll want to cook this for about 20 minutes in the broth and the onions too, because you'll want it to soften. But this is basically already done. So all you're wanting to do is cook it long enough for the onions to get tender. We're going to use an immersion blender to blend this smooth, but if you don't have an immersion blender and you have a regular blender, that's fine. You can pour the ingredients in that in batches. And the reason I say that is because you probably wouldn't want to pour all 8 cups of this in your blender at once. I don't know that it would fit, but if it does, go right ahead and do that. All right, let's see. That is about 2.5 cups right there. So we'll put the rest of this in a container and store it away in the fridge or the freezer. Probably be a better idea to store it in the freezer till we make soup again soon. Okay, we're going to let this cook for just a bit, let these onions get soft, and then we'll come right back and we'll put the other ingredients in and whip it up, show you what the end product looks like. Okay, this has been cooking for about 20 minutes, and I think our onions are soft enough to where the immersion blender is just going to take care of that. I'm going to go ahead and add about a teaspoon of black pepper to that. And we're going to add our pumpkin to it as well. Actually, I think I'll do the immersion blender first. That way I can make sure the chunks are all chopped up while it's still clear. If you've never owned an immersion blender or have never seen one work, the blades are inside this little cone, kind of a dome-shaped area, and it has these vents on the side, so it doesn't risk scratching your pan or anything like that. But this does a fabulous job with chopping things up the way a blender would, but you could put it down into a soup instead of having to pour it out into something else. This is also my favorite tool to make homemade mayonnaise with. Does it in a snap. Now, if you don't get all the onions chopped up, it's really not that big of a deal. It's just an onion in there. But if you want something super smooth, make sure it's all lump-free. I don't necessarily mind the onions in there because I like onions. I know what they are. Okay, I think most of them are out, if not all of them, for the most part. Now we'll put our pumpkin puree in there. And I'm going to go ahead and turn my burner off because I'm not necessarily ready to serve this yet. I still have to make my other item that's going to go with the meal, and we'll have this in just a few hours. I think I saw a chunk of an onion floating around, but that's okay. I hope I get it. Yep, there it is right there. All right, I'm going to get a whisk out of here. Because we're going to add, oh, here it is. I forget where I place things. This is a half cup of heavy cream. Going to whisk that in there. If you're trying to do things dairy-free because of an allergy or just somebody just doesn't want the dairy in there, you could always use like a full-fat coconut milk. And I think that would be great as far as texture, color, and flavor. Okay, hopefully I'll remember at the end of this video to show you some footage of the served soup in a mug, because we're going to grate fresh nutmeg over that. Now, if you don't know what a fresh nutmeg looks like, I don't want to assume everybody knows what I'm talking about, but they start out looking like this, which kind of looks like a rotten pecan. But when you grate it, this is what it looks like on the inside, and the fragrance is unbelievably good. So we're going to grate this real finely over the top of each serving, and it's going to be spectacular. So hopefully we'll get some footage of that. I can't wait to serve this tonight. But the other item we're going to serve with it is just as good. It just screams, it's autumn out there. We want the cold weather to come on. I don't really want the cold weather to come on, but when it's food like this, I get excited about the season, more so if I just had the same thing all year long. So this is what makes the variety good. So thanks for joining us. We look forward to sharing something again with you next time, but I hope you give this a try. It's so simple, such simple ingredients, and I've shown you every shortcut that you could possibly take to make this soup in just a snap. So my house is smelling good right now. I can't wait to show you what else goes with that in the next video. So thanks for joining us. Bye, guys.